Contrary to popular belief, most Jacobite soldiers were armed with muskets and bayonets, just like their red-coated adversaries. They were given basic drill in the use of these muskets, which were typically French pieces or captured brown bess muskets from dead or surrendering British soldiers. Following the September 1745 Battle of Prestonpans, the Jacobites captured a large quantity of British muskets, or just simply picked them up off the battlefield. In the Pennacook drawings, which are contemporary illustrations from the 1745 Rising, you can see multiple depictions of lowly Jacobite soldiers carrying muskets with fixed bayonets. During the Battle of Culloden in April 1746, the second line of the Jacobite army was made up of lowland infantry, and the reserves were made up of the Royal Ecossais and Irish pickets, who were regular troops from Europe equipped with muskets and bayonets. It was these musket-armed line infantry who bravely covered the retreat of the Jacobite clansmen when the Highland charge failed. Basket-hilted broadswords had been used in Scotland since the mid-17th century and had gradually replaced the two-handed longsword, the famous claymore. They were primarily the weapons of well-off Highlanders, such as the clan tacksmen, who were the officers of the Jacobite army. However, a number of cheap broadswords were supplied by the French, so some of the less wealthy Highlanders during the Rising would have probably had broadswords. The basket-hilted broadsword was capable of slicing off limbs and lopping off heads, and all round inflicting horrific wounds, which made it feared by government soldiers. In fact, the broadsword would continue to be issued to soldiers in the Highland regiments of the British Army into the second half of the 18th century, and to this day remains the ceremonial sidearm of a Scottish Highland officer. 18th century Scottish Highlanders would have always used the broadsword in combination with a targe, which was a round shield made of wood, leather, and studded with brass. This was small and light enough to be nimble and wielded with relative ease, but was also strong enough to withstand a pistol ball. However, it would not usually stop a musket ball. A long knife, or dagger, known as a dirk, was the traditional tool of a Highlander for many practical day-to-day uses. However, in combat, it could be used as a last resort weapon, or even held behind the shield, the targe, with the very end of the blade poking out. Allegedly, these were sometimes made from the broken ends of broadsword blades. The traditional formation for a Highland charge was a clump, with the clan officers at the front, armed with the best weapons, and ordinary levies behind them, armed with whatever they could get their hands on. One of the cheap, crude weapons brandished by Jacobite troops during the 45 Rising was the dreaded Lochaber axe. The heads of these weapons were easy for local blacksmiths to make. They were particularly effective against cavalry, with a hook to pull the rider from the saddle, and a great big cleaving blade which could lop off the horse's legs and be used to scythe underneath a cavalry charge. Government cavalry were repulsed at the Battle of Falkirk Moor in January 1746 by a close-range volley and Jacobite Lochaber axes. So those were the main weapons of Jacobite soldiers during the 45 Rising, at battles such as Prestonpans and Culloden: the musket, broadsword, and Lochaber axe.